It's the Harris Football Podcast with your host, Christopher Harris.
Welcome! Hey, everybody. Welcome in. My name is Chris, and this is a show about oranges and lemons. Hello there. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for being here today, you yacht possums. It's a big one, big show. We'll continue the countdown of the flag player list, and we'll have the Frag Players as well. This is also my last LA-based show for most of a week. I am going on a meetup tour as of Monday. When I talk to you on Monday, it will be from a Seattle hotel room after having done the first Pound Foolish meetup and reading on Sunday at the Mule Tavern in Tacoma. Then for Monday, I will fly to Portland for an event that evening, Tuesday Vegas, Wednesday Phoenix. All the details, if you'd like to come hang out, look in the show notes. The link works now. Or go to harrisfootball.com, scroll down on the Pound Foolish page. There's a big old graphic giving you every piece of information you need for this tour. I will have copies of the new book with me for you to buy, and then, of course, I can sign them and personalize them for you. So if you're planning on joining for one of these events and would like a copy of Pound Foolish signed, bring Venmo, and we'll be ready to go. As I say, I will be making shows in the morning next week. Nothing's going to change except I'll be in a hotel room. So, as the whole thing's going on, day by day, I'll give you a briefing on how it's going. It's going to be very, very fun. Looking forward to meeting whoever does come out. Original Recipe La Liga Lebowski had its auction on Thursday night. That was last night. A very fun affair. I think we all agreed it went longer than we can ever remember. There just happened to be a whole bunch of players' contracts that expired at the same time, and or a bunch of players who got cut back in March. So we just had more guys to churn through at auction. Took, I think, nearly 2 hours, and we made good time. Like, we weren't dilly-dallying. Normally, that's like an hour 10 max. Did I purchase myself a single running back? I sure didn't. There were some. They went for a lot, and I decided not to spend it. Good luck, Jeremiyah Love, Jadarian Price, Blake Corum, Jordan Mason, Kyle Monangai. I can't imagine what could go wrong with that running back group. Oh, and I am touching my fictional earpiece and being told that Jeremiyah Love and Kyle Monangai are already hurt. Although that team does still have Chase and Jefferson, Drake May, got Sam Laporta, hopefully he's healthy, got Cortland Sutton. The highest dollar players of the night on a salary cap of like mid-1500s. You had Saquon at $475, Derrick Henry $418, to Cousin Josh, Jonathan Taylor $407, 92 players up for auction. I have a lot of cap room left. That's perfect, exactly as I planned it. Room to make trades, room to acquire salary, room to make the fab bids to bring everybody to their knees. We'll see if my extremely young backfield in that league is doomed or not. We had 4 more joint practices on Thursday. It seems to me, from the perspective of very early on Friday morning, that big injuries were fortunately less the story of the day than earlier in the week. Let's see. Let's go through them briefly. Browns, Bills. So one thing, I wasn't there. I'm just reading a lot of beat reports from people I trust. Casey Concepcion has been a buzzy guy throughout camp. It sounds actually like Denzel Boston was the star of that session, and Quinshon Judkins missed the practice with a nagging injury that so far has not changed anything inside my ranks, but we'll pay attention to it. I didn't have any notes for the Bills. It sounded like Josh Allen was really good. Bears, Bengals, Caleb Williams, about whom we talked on Thursday's show, once again, had peaks, but also had valleys. Dexter Lawrence apparently had a field day rushing Caleb Williams and even intercepted him once. Stop me if you've heard this before. Great highlights from Williams and head-shaking plays, too. And Jamar Chase, Seven Nation Army, he apparently dropped a few passes in this practice and was very frustrated with himself. So obviously, huge downgrade to Jamar Chase. Saints, Rams. Saints right back at it. Had a joint practice 2 days ago with the Cowboys, then Thursday with the Rams. No Puka Nacua. still dealing with a groin injury. Puka Nacua hasn't practiced in 10 days, and camp is basically over. I'm not sure we're going to get a lot of Puka Nacua practice between now and week 1. He's a first-round pick. Could we get the nasty surprise for week 1? The Rams are not tipping their hand yet, and I'm not making changes yet, but it certainly should be sitting in the back of your head if you're in the back of round 1 and you're thinking you want to take Puka. There was no Alvin Kamara, because he's out for at least a month in this joint practice. Chris Olave was resting. Who's going to be the backup to Travis Etienne? Yesterday, apparently, things got less clear because people said that Ty Chandler had a really good practice to join Kendre Miller and Devin Neal as possible candidates. I'm not acting on any of that, and probably in any standard-sized league, you don't need to be drafting any of those Saints backup running backs just because of lack of clarity. Devontae Adams apparently absolutely rampaged in that practice for whatever that's worth. And then the one I was really waiting for, Giants-Dolphins, and unfortunately, I'm not going to have a lot of Giants notes for you because you know what I was waiting for. I've talked about it for a week now. This is about Devon Achane and how bad his situation will be. Talked about it on Thursday's pod with Matt Harmon. It was both our number one thing we were worried we could be wrong about. Are the Dolphins truly going to be world historically bad? Because if they're not, then we're probably missing some draftable players on there. But neither one of us is putting a bunch of draftable players on there. So we are kind of assuming they're going to be bad. But how bad? Bad enough that we want to lower Devon Achane. I'm combing through the reports of a joint practice from the Dolphins again, and once again, Miami apparently was just really bad on offense. The Giants were in Malik Willis's face for the entire practice. They're not allowed to sack him, but observers said, yeah, he might have been sacked like a dozen different times. Bad blitz pickup. Achane apparently had one run where maybe he got around the edge for a big play, although I guess Abdul Carter raised his hand because he was nearby as though he thought he would have made the play. Like there's no tackling in these things. I'm trying to be true to my word here. After the Dolphins-Commanders joint practice, I told you I wanted to wait. I wanted to see, okay, maybe that was just one bad day. But once again, you have opposing beat reporters just piling on. Maybe this is just a case of NFL reporters knowing that the expectations for the Dolphins are low, so they're going in ready to pounce. They feel comfortable saying negative stuff. I don't know. These guys have been doing it a long time. I think it's likelier the Dolphins have just looked really bad in these joint practices. You can't really tell anything from a joint practice, but it's a better representation of where these teams are than exhibition games are. I truly believe that. And so I'm going to do it. I'm relenting a little bit on Devon Achane. He's a little further down in the ranks. The move that I just executed puts him 13th overall standard, 16th PPR. This is not a massive change, but we do those shows in July, and we talk about the things we want to pay attention to in training camp, and absolutely Achane and the Dolphins was one of them. So I'm going to do it. I feel like you want to be stubborn in your opinions because you want them to be based on reality, not some ephemeral feeling of the moment, but you try to be somewhat flexible. And so he's not a bust. I'm not putting him into terrible bust territory, but yeah, there are indicators for sure that the Dolphins are going to be bad. Now, we talked with Matt on Thursday about how, Malik Willis is just okay and better than he was with Tennessee, and the offensive line turns out to be better than people think. Like, there are scenarios where it can turn out we're all just too low on Dolphins because we're not good at predicting situations beforehand. But these two joint practices have kind of convinced me, yeah, this is one of the situations that I'm kind of believing doesn't have a lot of hope. So my lowering of Achane here, it mostly just puts him in line with where most sites have him ranked.
Today's kickoff.
Okay, on today's show, a lot to get to. We will finish counting down the Flag Players list, players 5 through 1. That will be very fun. And then cousin Josh will join the show, and Josh will do the opposite of endorsing players. He will give you players he definitely does not love. These are the Cousin Josh Frag Players. I think you'll have fun, and I thank you again so much for listening today. We are sponsored again by Dose, a delicious juice you can drink just 2 ounces of per day as a way to self-manage your cholesterol. A lot of people understandably aren't thrilled by the idea of taking a whole bunch of capsules. Dose is a clinically backed support supplement, and it targets triglycerides, LDL, HDL, and total cholesterol levels. I have Dose. I've been drinking a little 2-ounce shot of Dose each morning. It's mango with a hit of ginger. It is delicious. I've checked the ingredients. There's nothing crazy in there. Turmeric, gooseberry, a natural antioxidant, and other plant-based ingredients. Tastes really good and is clinically proven to aid cholesterol levels. If that's something you've been thinking about, I'd recommend giving it a try. New Dose customers can save 35% on your first month of subscription by going to dosedaily.co/Harris or entering /Harris at checkout. That's dosedaily.co/Harris for 35% off your first subscription month.
Maybe I'm just not up with the times, but who listens to podcasts?
Oh, come on now.
That is a great question, Troy. You are not up with the times, and you were not when you said that like 8 years ago or something. I mean, he didn't know how right he was. Everything's on YouTube. Who listens to podcasts? I don't know. Here we are still cranking them out after all these years, and I'm still doing Flag Players every dang year. You heard number 10 through number 6 yesterday. Let's keep the list going now.
Number 5.
At number 5, it's our last later round guy. It's Chris Rodriguez. Again, as I emphasized with the later round guys on the list yesterday, where do they get drafted? Your guess is as good as mine. It absolutely depends on your platform. If you're on Yahoo or ESPN, I don't think Rodriguez is even listed in the top 168 of their default ranks. And so maybe it doesn't go at all. For other sites, it's more like round 11, round 12. I don't know. And it's not like I know anything for sure about workload, but it seems like for a few weeks there, I sure heard a lot of people talking about how, well, Leon Cohen has a long history of Chris Rodriguez, and he brought him in, and he wouldn't have brought him in without a reason. And then Rodriguez was slow getting started in training camp because of foot surgery, but he's been back for most of August, I think. He's been doing everything. And then LeQuint Allen just got hurt a few days ago. I don't think he's out for a real long time, but he is out for a little while. Generally, it's just so funny to me that you get these speeches out of people when they decide they don't like a player, that, oh, there's all these other guys. And then if they like a player, they go, bah, who cares about those other guys? Like every team basically has every other guys, and very, very few, like 2 or 3 running backs will do 70% of his team's carries or more. And it's just going to be a mix-up. And Kyron Williams doomed because there's Blake Corum. Chase Brown, don't worry about it. Who cares about Samaje Perine? It just, actually, they're all going to have someone else play. I feel like this is the same thing. I feel like everybody just decided they love Bashul Tutin and there are no threats. And so that's what the ADP suggests, that you can think of Chris Rodriguez like you think of Brian Robinson. And I do not agree with that statement. Rodriguez is there. He was handpicked by one of his college coaches. And he's going to play, just like every other NFL backfield just about has somebody who's going to play some more manner of platoon. And Rodriguez is the power back, and he's pretty good at that. And he's very good at touchdowns. And so's Tutin. So, I don't know who's getting the touchdowns, but I think Rodriguez is on the board as a possibility. He's going to play. He's going to play a bunch. I will stash that. No obligation to use him. And let's see how it works out.
Number 4.
Okay, number 4, you might remember yesterday when I selected Kyron Williams for the flag list, I said that I was fudging the round numbers a little bit because Williams overlaps pretty closely in ADP with one of the receivers I'm going to put on the list. And that receiver is
120 pounds, and now my knee hurts. I'm in space, but Jalen is blind. 120 pounds. I'm a receiver and my knee hurts. cry.
Much less crying, hopefully this year, for DeVonta Smith. Smith and Kyren Williams certainly go within a round of each other, so it might just be difficult to get both. That's okay. It's pretty impossible, especially with the state of ADP internet-wide, to devise a flag list where everybody's going to be able to draft everybody. There's just going to be overlap. Williams is higher in my own ranks than DeVonta Smith, but they're both round 2 picks for me. I think they generally, both Kyren Williams and DeVonta Smith, go in round 3 from what I've seen. I said this yesterday. I would love to go like Bijan at 2, Kyren, and then DeVonta Smith early round 3. I think that would be a great start for me. But let's talk about Smith himself. Is there any hesitation because of the hamstring in training camp? He missed nearly 2 weeks of camp and didn't participate in the joint practices with the Patriots the past couple days, but Smith supposedly is back doing drills, and I don't think this is anything more than precautionary. And it's a big role if he can handle it with no A.J. Brown there. So this is a vote from me that he can handle it. He's probably not a 170 target guy because he is slender, and you need to be careful of too much stuff in traffic, but Smith is a terrifying receiver. He is a great deep threat. He's got a great pair of hands, kitten mittens attached to his arms. I'm not saying I find him completely unimpeachable because I'm not putting him number 4 or whatever, I really don't want DeVonta Smith running a bunch of dig routes into traffic and getting blasted, but that's okay because Jalen Hurts doesn't really like to throw the dig route. I have Smith wide receiver 10. He goes wide receiver 14-ish. So I am on board.
Number 3.
At number 3, I probably have an even faster receiver than Smith, who is not as accomplished and has been frustrating for a long time, but did put it together in the second half of last year. It's Jameson Williams on the flag list for the first time. Sometimes he goes round 5, even better if you can get him to last into round 6. We've certainly had conversations about him, about how when Dan Campbell started calling plays for the Lions in the second half of last year, suddenly you got more than Jameson Williams running wind sprints with his arm up in the air. You got some shallow crosses out of him. You got some one-step screens out of him. He ran curls in front of 2-deep coverage, which is huge because there's a lot of 2-deep coverage. And it worked. From week 10 forward, Williams was the wide receiver 4 in standard and 5 in PPR. Do I understand how it could not work out taking him? Definitely. That's why he's not a first-round pick. Campbell is no longer calling the plays. And I sure did not love Drew Petzig as a play caller in Arizona. And if Sam Laporta's hip is healthy and he's out there as usual, that would be a difference from last year when the Lions did not have Laporta during most of Jameson Williams' really good run. And if we wind up sending Williams back out there to run wind sprints again, and he just gets frustrating from week to week, we'll probably be able to explain it by saying, yeah, it was because Laporta had returned. But if I were the Lions, based on what I observed from November onward last year, that's not what I would do. I would spread things out more. I would make sure that Williams was a significant part of my plan in a bunch of different ways, not just deep stuff. His deep speed is absolutely absurd. He's going to make some big plays. Now, he does have a pair of duck hands. That is a little scary. I don't love having the duck hands on the flag list. But 6th round, count me in 100%. 5th round, still will do it. I was going to say, like, depending on what else I've taken before him, but 5th round, I probably do it.
Number 2.
At number 2 on the flag list, I have the sprinter soldier, Bucky Irving. He is at some risk of overlapping where Jameson Williams goes, but I'm actually okay if I do Irving 4th, Williams 5th, so I'm not going to stress out too much about that. Why are we going back to the well with Bucky Irving? So I think he's so elusive. I think he might be the 3rd most elusive running back in the league behind McCaffrey and Achane. He's not quite the burner that Achane is, straight ahead, but in terms of cutting and making you miss, this would certainly apply to him.
He gets away and runs. He got by Mo. Look at him go! Oh, he's as slippery as a raindrop.
He's as slippery as a raindrop. When he was healthy last season, there was no question who the lead back was among Irving and Rachaad White and Sean Tucker. Through 4 games last year, Irving was tied for 3rd in running back touches with Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs. And then he got hurt, and that's where the big question is for me. The curse of tiny bones. It is tough to handle that kind of workload at 195 pounds. And we had the foot that became a shoulder. As you remember, it was a foot injury, and then suddenly they're like, no, it's actually a really bad shoulder injury. And it stayed a shoulder injury because Irving would wind up having shoulder surgery this winter. But when he came back before the surgery, he tried to come back and did for the final 6 games of the season. He did play fewer snaps because presumably he was hurt, but his workload went right back into the top 10. Now it's a new coordinator in Tampa. I'm not drawing all that many conclusions, but my feeling is, again, almost every backfield has competition, and I'm sorry, if you're terrified of Kenneth Gainwell and Sean Tucker, who when Irving was healthy last year, barely touched the ball, boy, oh boy, I think you're terrified a lot. I think it's funny how Irving gets punished and Chase Brown, no problem, and Bijan Robinson, no problem. I've said it a lot. I'm going to stop saying it now. Irving was the 13 pick last year. Remember, very early round 2 last year. And now he's sometimes a 5th rounder, although I'll probably take him in the 4th. But yeah, I just feel like we are getting now a pretty good size discount. And I wind up taking Bucky Irving a bunch.
Number 1.
And my top flag player on the list for 2026...
You don't say Zay Flowers anymore.
I swear I didn't just pick guys who have fun mixtapes, but it is Zay Flowers. He's a 3rd round pick in almost every draft I do. So again, is it possible to get DeVonta Smith and Zay Flowers on the same team? Maybe not. Here's my logic on why to put them both on the flag list. You get to choose your favorite. I'm not necessarily correct. Also, I have actually done Jahmyr Gibbs 1, DeVonta Smith 24, Zay Flowers 25. That has happened to me. But, for the flag list, I don't really think you want me planting most of the flags in like the 10th round or the 14th round or whatever. That's just a really hard thing to hit on in a super impactful way. The really impactful players obviously are more likely to be earlier in the draft. So, I'm going to have to wind up selecting. If I'm taking 10 guys, there's going to be several in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6. There's just going to be some overlap. So anyway, why do I put Flowers number 1 on the flag list compared to Smith when I have Smith a couple of spots higher? It's because Flowers tends to go a little bit later. So I think he's slightly better value. I think you already know that I like Zay Flowers a bunch. Finishes wide receiver 8 last year with his quarterback limping around. He's another electric guy who doesn't have a lot of size. I think he's been snake bitten not to score more touchdowns. Feels like his career is a highlight reel of getting tackled at the 1 over and over. Yes, Derrick Henry steals the close in stuff. There isn't a lot of overlap for anybody else. But a player as fast and quick as Flowers eventually, I think, is going to break through that 6 touchdown ceiling. It just seems small sample size. Every NFL season is a small sample size. And Lamar Jackson, have I said this recently? In the history of the NFL, nobody has a higher career average depth of target. He will push it downfield. I understand that defenses make that harder now. They're back to playing the 2 deep shell and daring you to go on long drives. But Flowers isn't just a run one direction deep threat. He's electric. He runs routes. He was 2nd in the NFL last year in yards on play action passes, behind only last year's flag player breakout, JSN. I think there's some overlap between their games. I think touchdowns are pretty random, and I think that's the only thing that's been stopping Flowers from having a JSN-style explosion, and therefore I think it's possible he does explode. We are sponsored again by Vuori, makers of my favorite clothes on the planet and for the planet. Vuori clothing, incredible for workout or for sports. If you go to the gym, play golf, play hoops, play tennis, anything, absolutely great. I work out in Vuori basically every day. I'm wearing Banks shorts and a Stratotech tank this moment. Vuori is also just great for hanging around, for lounging, reading in the morning, walking the dog. I have never gotten a piece of Vuori clothing I didn't absolutely love. And I have a lot of Vuori clothing. Whenever I go out with someone who knows the show, they'll be like, uh-oh, got any Vuori on you? And I'm always like, sure do. These clothes are made with recycled material. They feel great. They look great. Top end. Get a pair of joggers for the wife. She will love them. Check out everything they've got at vuori.com/Harris. You'll get 20% off if you use the code Harris for your first purchase. vuori.com/Harris for 20% off. Seriously, try these clothes. vuori.com/Harris.
Today's guest.
The dude's a trash bag in my book. Trash bags in paradise. He's the lemon-flavored Italian ice. In my mind, he's already out of the NFL. Nothing to like. I'm ashamed of myself. Mom, I love you.
Mom, he loves you. Josh, that walk-up song from Samoan football, who doesn't listen to the show anymore, but did for many years, that dates to 2015. How does that make you feel?
It was the beginning days, man. That was when I was an emerging star. I wasn't quite a household name just yet, but it was the beginnings. It's part of my origin story. So it's always great to hear a throwback.
So I played that because it was a request from one of the winners, Jason, who I Zoomed with on Monday, one of the Pound Foolish winners, said, I really would love to hear the Batman walk up for Josh this week. And he didn't say this week. I offered it. And I was glad to do it. He was lovely to talk to. And what I'll really say is how your voice has not changed at all. Like it could have been recorded yesterday. It's funny.
Is my voice supposed to change at this age? Like from 30 whatever to 44?
Yeah, I bet you if you listen to me, I bet you I'm a little deeper now. Usually you get a little more. They call it stentorian. You get a little more gravity in your voice. Yeah, I bet you if you listened to 2015, you'd be like, I'd probably a little higher, a little faster.
Yeah, look, it's the early days. It's like, Leonardo DiCaprio, Romeo and Juliet, Basketball Diaries. It's,
But you were right there, right in the pocket, right from the very beginning with your lemon-flavored Italian ice, Carlos Hyde out of the NFL. And then, of course, in a subsequent trash bag walk-up, he came Banana Bread Hyde. We had trash bags for many years in a row, like 6 years in a row or something like that. I believe 20. The last one was because Samoan football was out, and then I can't remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember who kept sending them in. But the last one was Queso Fendido in 2022. So
I forgot about that.
Yeah, Queso Fendido, Dr. Mike. All right. Well, people have heard the flag players now. They've gotten all the good into their system, and now you can inject a little bad. And let's face it, who would you want to inject bad into your system more than the Prince of Darkness, Cousin Josh? Because I'll tell you, the flag list last year, the flag list had JSN on it. We all made a lot of money on JSN. It fortunately overlooked a lot of other sins, but it wasn't that good last year. Compared to the 2 previous years, it was bad because the 2 previous years, the flag list absolutely rocked. And I'll own up to it. Chuba Hubbard is still staring me in the face. You, on the other hand, last year, holy moly, the frag players for last year, 4 for 5. And this is hard. This is hard to granted, you're not picking first round guys, but it's hard to pick a 4th round player, a 6th round player and be like, garbage. That guy's a garbage. You got 4 out of 5 garbage. The only one you missed was DeAndre Swift. You had Xavier Worthy, garbage. You had Caleb Johnson, garbage. You had Baker Mayfield, garbage. Your number 1, I probably my jaw hit the desk last year. And that probably didn't because we don't draft tight ends. But Brock Bowers, where did Brock Bowers get? Can you remind me, where did he get picked last year?
I think he was in that 12-13 area. Another generational talent.
I think he was people were taking him 10. I think he was a first round pick all the way. Of course he could get to the turn in some drafts when there were Harris listeners in the draft who would pass on him. But yeah, you fragged Bowers as a first rounder. And, of course he was on my bust list too. And it's not that we didn't think he's good, and it's just we're never going to take the guy there. That was your main thing. Your speech last year was like, I'm not telling you Bowers is a terrible player. I'm saying it's a terrible idea to take him where he's going. Anyway, great job last year. A lot to live up to. Any thoughts before we start fragging these players?
Yeah. Look, I'm very proud of that. I think Worthy was like an end of 3 pick, and Caleb was like a 5-6. So I feel really good about that. Last things I'll just typically say is like, it's not the easiest thing to do, and there's so many variables still for another 2 weeks. I try not to go past like round 6 or 7 usually, unless it's something completely off. And I try to at least pick a few guys in the round 3, 4, 5 area. Yeah, I have my thoughts on this, and I also try this year specifically. I really tried to not do too much injury related. I only think there might be one, but I was off of this guy beforehand, so I'll probably kick things off when we do it with this person 5, which I know you're not going to be on either based on your ranking.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I remember, and I remember terribly, I don't think any of the guys last year you picked were injury guys. Of course,
No.
Worthy would turn out to be, Mayfield would turn out to be, Bowers would turn out to be, but that wasn't why you picked him. So that just makes it all the more impressive. When I looked up the list, because, I always look up your old lists to tell you beforehand, so you either maybe don't pick the same guys, or at least you remember what your thought process or whatever. When we looked at this one from last year, we were like, holy moly, this is one of your best performances ever. Let's see if you can top it. Who's your number 5 frag player for 2026?
All right, I'll get this one out of the way because there are some injuries related, but you and I were off Jeremiyah Love even before any of that started. His real-time ADP, Chris, is still 28, which places him in the early part of round 3, still going as RB14. Again, don't want this to be an injury podcast, but you look at some of the round 1 picks, I should say, like the round 1 running backs over the last 4 or 5 years, and even when they finished well, like think about Jahmyr Gibbs in 2023, they're not smooth rides, right? And that you're talking about someone who right now is a superstar. People also liken this situation to Genti last year, who finished, 15? I don't think it's pretty similar. You talked a little bit about it, I think, when we were doing the YouTube draft with Genti. Like, the percentage of touches he got in that backfield last year, 315, I think, between 266 and, my math's a little off, 311. He got 80% of the touches there. Lot different in terms of competition. He's already dinged up. They have Tyler Algier, who we just watched take carries away from Bijan Robinson, who's going to probably be the 2 pick in most drafts, has 1,000 yards under a season. They have an absurd first 11 games, the Cardinals. I know you and I are not going to fight about schedule, but I know you will at least agree that the Cardinals are not a good team. Coming out of the gates, double-digit underdogs ready to the Chargers in Seattle. The last thing I'm going to say, Chris, too, is this. A lot of talk about using him in the passing game. I hear the same thing about McBride and Wilson and Harrison. I'm also working on another theory, Chris, which I think I've alluded to. At some point, these NFL teams are going to do what these loser teams do in the NBA, and I'm telling you as a loser fan of the Utah Jazz, I know how this works. One of your investments gets dinged up, and you're already sitting there, and you're like, well, we're only 1-9 anyway. And I'm not saying they're just going to sit guys, but all of a sudden, a Larry Markkinen groin injury is like, maybe you want to sit down. A Jaren Jackson, deviated septum. You want that nose surgery? So these things happen all the time. And when you're 1-9 and Carson Beck is in there and you've used a top 5 pick on this guy, what is the use of playing him? I'm out on him. I know he's your RB22. He's my RB24. I couldn't consider him until probably that 5-6 turn. There's just too many other running backs that I think that don't have this many warts and issues and concerns with the team.
So the Cardinals offense came up on yesterday's show with Matt Harmon as what if, there's a lot built into the ranks where people are thinking that the Cardinals aren't very good. And what if they're okay? What if they're fine? What does that do? Do we regret not hyping up these potentially very athletic receivers who, have been pretty disappointing in their careers? And, the only reason, let's face it, you and I both know Jeremiyah Love is generational. Although every generation, he's generational for gypsy moths because they come around every year. If people didn't think the Cardinals were going to stink, where do you think Jeremiyah Love would be getting drafted? It would be 12.
It'd be the swing pick. Yeah.
It'd be where Genty went. Genty was going 5 in some drafts by the end of last year because people can't help themselves. And so in some regards, you know me, I always kind of want to buck the trend and say, well, if you're making players cheaper than they should be because you're positive the team's going to be bad, then yada yada. People know my speech. In this case, the prevailing wind to accelerate the rookie, is much stronger than the wind to decelerate the Cardinals, and that's how he's still somehow with a high ankle sprain top of round 3 pick. And I said to Matt, like, maybe this will wind up, like bringing his ADP into reason a little bit. And Matt's like, I'm watching it in real time on Yahoo. It's not moving at all. It has gone down like in the last couple days, a couple of spots, but it is very clear that people are still on, and I understand why you're not, because I'm not either. What's your number 4?
I guess we'll start with some comedy. I mean, the order really doesn't make a difference. We'll go with Jack Dart. I talked a little bit about him, I think, in the Almanac, as well as his stepbrother boy, Cam Scatterbo. But we're going with Jaxson Dart today. Chris, I know it's very in vogue to bet on these rushing quarterbacks, and I got friends that think this dude's still going to be dating Sydney Sweeney at some point. Neither of these are happening in 2026 or anytime soon. I have him as my QB 16. He's going in the 80s still as like a end of round 7 pick. And it just feels like this is based solely off of those 14 games when he ran in 9 touchdowns and the 487. You're with me, I know, on this. I read the Almanac. I'm still unsure if he's a good passer, which I'm pretty sure is probably the most important part of being an NFL quarterback. And you still have to do it to put up fantasy points, right? Statue quarterbacks, everyone teases them when we see Goff and Stafford do these top 6 seasons pretty much every year. The guy cracked 200 yards in 6 games. The other thing too, Chris, is that no one ever talks about this as an injury risk with him. Like, this guy's in the medical tent. I saw some tweet, like almost 40% of his starts, I think, when you factor in preseason as well. They add in Matt Nagy, who just an absolute nightmare what he did in Chicago, then sent off to the Chiefs. Didn't do the greatest in the last couple of years. Here we are now. It's also like no one is factoring in what that receiving core looks like too, where they have Malik Neighbors. We're not exactly sure what that's going to look like. Cam Scatterbo's recovering from an injury. Jim Hardballs is in there. And everyone I know loves to kind of liken this. It's like, yeah, man, well, he had Lamar, and like, look what that did for Lamar. First of all, Lamar Jackson also didn't really run the ball at the goal line. Like, you look at his rushing TDs, they're like 3, 4, 3, 4. I think, Chris, when you look at where he's going ADP-wise, forget the quarterbacks, like picks after him, like Blake Corum, like I'd rather bet on a guy like a Godwin or Kittle or even Jordan Mason, not to mention quarterbacks going after him, Stafford, Goff, Purdy. Bo Nix is probably what you're hoping for if you're taking Dart, and you can get these guys later. I think there's no like risk built into this, and it's all like if his ceiling hits, he's going as QB9, and that's where you're drafting. It just seems wild to me to use an early 8, round 7 pick on Jaxson Dart on that offense with all these variables, the injury risk. I'm just completely out until I could see, at least 6, 7, 8 games in them.
Yeah, everybody listening knows that I obviously agree. I have him QB 16. He's the surf movie bad guy. Pretty funny that in the preseason game he does something kamikaze right away and gets gobsmacked, and they have to send him to the blue tent. It turned out, at least they say, and I probably believe, that it wasn't a concussion, but just shows you that the survival instincts not good. A kitten in traffic, you might say.
Yeah. Great Johnny Lawrence vibes.
We are sponsored this season by Ridge. They make wallets, they make chargers and luggage. I have the new Ridge 2.0 wallet. It is sleek, it is slim, it fits in my pocket incredibly well. It fits like 10 credit cards. It's teeny weeny. It has RFID blocking plates so nobody can scan my wallet and steal credit card info. Strong recommend from me. And Ridge has a legendary sweepstakes. It runs through September 8th. This is their 6th annual giveaway, completely free to enter at ridge.com. 2 lucky winners are going to get to choose between a Lamborghini Storado, a Ford Velociraptor, a souped-up Ford Bronco, or $100,000 in cash. You get extra entries when you also buy Ridge gear, but it is free to enter at ridge.com. If you're ready to upgrade your wallet and maybe your ride, go to ridge.com and enter code Harris at checkout. You'll get 10% off your order and a chance to win an awesome car. Maybe take the Lamborghini. No purchase necessary, but every dollar you spend gets you more entries. Ridge.com. Use that code Harris. Okay, we're back with Josh. We are counting down Josh's Frag Players for 2026. It's a pointless countdown. The order doesn't matter, but it matters, Josh, so much. Bite your tongue before the break for saying that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all, but it absolutely matters. Who's your number 3?
I feel like this one's going to sadden you, although when I give my rationale, you'll go, no, I get it. I put Harold Fannin down, and it's not because I don't like the player. So I want to preface this by saying, Chris, I love him in Dynasty. I actually tried to trade for him last night. Couldn't get him. Not because I love him this year, but long term, I really am impressed by him. I think he's phenomenal after the catch. I think he's so difficult to tackle. Great rookie season coming off those, 731 yards and the 72 catches. I know Todd Monken's a tight end friendly coach. Again, this is one of these I think that's kind of ADP, and you and I have a way that we draft tight ends. If I can get an amazing deal on a Bowers or McBride, sure, I get it. I drafted McBride last year in the mid-4th. It was awesome. But when I look and I see his real-time ADP is pick 74, and he's going before players like Carnell Tate, and even guys I don't love like DK Metcalf or, Brian Thomas, first, second, third. You don't even have to use the junior, Chris. Wilson, Cortland Sutton, like Jonathan Brooks. Like, there were players here who I could think really could influence your fantasy season. And to be someone who wants to use an early 7-round pick when Dallas Goedert's going 40 picks later, like your boy Brenton Strange, 80 picks later, Juwan Johnson, 70. You can get George Kittle a round and a half later. I just think that that's not the way I'm going to draft my team. I think from a team perspective, a little bit more target competition. I know they're rookies, but people are raving about Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston. There's capital on them as pick 24 and 39. So I think that the target volume could be a little bit different. And that quarterback situation, whether it's Watson or Sanders, Dylan Gabriel probably get thrown in there for some comedy. I don't know. It just seems like a ton to pay. And whether it's him, like you could have put Pitts on this, I would have been fine with it. It just seemed like that right in that area where any of those tight ends, not named the first 2 that I'm not getting a good deal on, I'm just waiting. Like I'm not going to reach for Fannin. I'm not going to be the one reaching for Kraft. I know Laporta got dinged today. I just think that's a bad way to spend these round 6, round 7 picks.
Yeah, Kraft fell out of that group for me with the comments about how, maybe by midseason I'll be a full-time player. That. I'm like, okay, I'm out. So I mean, it's good that I don't feel like Fannin is a must buy or anything like that, but I actually don't hate that. Depends on your league format. If you're talking half PPR, I would say that the Laporta, Warren, Loveland, Fannin, that's probably the group of 4 that comes after, in whatever order you want, that comes after the 2 guys. I sometimes get one. If everybody's waiting on tight end, I sometimes get one. Mm-hmm. And I understand what you mean to say, like, but 4 rounds later you can find Brenton Strange. And I'm like, yes, but I do have ranks, and I usually just do like to stick to my board. And so if one of those guys is the highest guy left on my board, I do. And usually I think it's Laporta. We'll see if there winds up being anything extra behind this injury. Or maybe we won't see, and maybe we'll just be terrified. But I mean, 70, right around 70 is where I would be comfortable. And it's, to be honest, there are some places where that tight end, Loveland is way gone. Warren is way gone. The question is Laporta and Fannin. And I have them all the same. And I'll just say that's one where I'm not calling bust. I'm not, for that price, we'll call it a 6th or maybe a 7th round pick. I'm actually okay with those 2 guys at that price, but you're not, and it's your list. So, I'm glad your main reason wasn't I'm positive the Browns are going to suck.
No,
I know it has to factor into us a little bit. Nobody's sitting here thinking the Cleveland offense is top 10. And so like it matters. It matters that Fannin isn't matched with a good quarterback that we know of. I don't think either of those guys is good. Other stuff that you're saying. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I really was close to putting Kraft on this for the same thing. I have him in the same tier as you with Laporta and Kraft and him, but it felt like I was taking an easy way out with this stuff of like, we should be able to ramp him up. And I'm like, all right, I don't want to use that as part of it, but
Right.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I wouldn't be using
lowered
those
Kraft. I lowered him a lot. He's not in that tier anymore for me. Now I have him next to Brenton Strange, Juwan Johnson, Kyle Pitts. Like, I had going into if people open the almanac, he's listed as my tight end 3. And they were all next to each other, but like he was my choice of that group. He was awesome before he got hurt last year. In that little stretch, he was awesome. And we love him being a full-time tight end. You know, he doesn't come off the field kind of guy. But now, you know, I don't need to be playing Salvation Army on guys who are like, yeah, they're telling me I'm probably not going to play that much. You know, okay.
I did a double take at your rankings because I was like, wait, Kraft is 7 now? Because I was like, if I put Kraft in this, I'll just have to fight with Chris because I know he has him as 3. And I was like, wait, he has him 7 too. So it's like, all right.
Yeah, down. All right, who's your number 2 frag guy?
All right. You call him the Sprinter Soldier.
Oh.
Hold on. I call him Bucky Turding.
I mean, buddy.
I know.
This might be the first time it's ever happened.
I know what you're going to say. I know.
He's a flag player.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I thought about it, and I was like, I know when I put this on here, I said Chris is going to have him as a flag player, and I'll give you my thoughts. And I think by week 3 or week 4, one of us is going to be really right, and we're going to go, well, of course, yeah. I mean, like he wasn't healthy last year, and now Wirfs is back, and it's a healthier team, and it's like, or we're going to go, oh yeah, we kind of saw this coming at the end of last year, but I'll give you my take because I already know that you went through some flag players. You touched on in the almanacs with the tiny bones stuff at the end, and it's like, you know, I think this is going to be a make or break it season, what we do with Bucky moving forward, 5'10", 195 frame. He came back from that injury, right, last year, and he just didn't have that explosiveness. Obviously dinged up. Who knows if he was healthy? I think those 6 games that we saw him, including the playoffs, like just 1 rushing touchdown. I know we're not yards per carry gurus on this show, but when you fail to average 4 in any of those games, I know the volume was there, but like, man, 0 rushing attempts within the 5-yard line last year at any point. Tucker had 9, Rashad White had 8. I just get really concerned a little bit about the usage, a little about his ability to stand up and that explosiveness. I think you can basically say the Rashad White work is probably going to be taken over with Gainwell, and I don't think you're going to sit here and say, yeah, you don't disagree. I also don't think you sit here and just say, oh, well, Gainwell's there. That's the end of it for Bucky Irving. I'm not saying that, but I do think you're going to say he's going to be caught 73 balls. They're bringing him in to catch balls. And again, I think Sean Tucker's going away. I don't know what the Zach Robinson offense looks like. I saw the Tyler Algier stuff last year with the talented running back, and he had no problem playing him near the goal line. I have an issue again where I like Bucky, but I think he's more in that Jalen Warren, Stevenson area who are going at like 68, 75, and he's still going off as a round 4 player. Yeah, he's not going at 12 to 15 like last year, but you're not getting much of a discount. I know, and that's the thing for me. I don't think you're getting that much of a discount. You and I will differ on him. I just think there's a ton of risk baked in.
Okay. I mean, I understand your perspective on everything you said except for that last part. That's just wrong. You are absolutely getting me in a discount. You said he went 12 last year, and now he's going 46 or 48. Or I mean, I called him I'm fudging by calling him a 5th-round pick. Like, if get him in the early 5th grade.
It's end of 4, early 5, sure.
Yeah. Like, how is that not a discount? It is by definition a discount. There's a reason behind it. The discount is happening because people got scared by him being small and getting hurt last year. But it is a discount. It's a huge discount.
I think he belongs. Here's the thing. I looked at where you have him ranked. My ranking with him is way more with those guys like Montgomery and Warren and Stevenson and that group. And I think those guys are more like round 6 picks because I think
you've moved so far away from the mic that we're starting to lose you.
No, I'm saying I have him ranked more with Warren and Stevenson and that group of guys, and I just kind of don't have him in that. Not as close as that Kyron group at like the 3, but I just think he's more of a ranked 24 to 25 back. And I know you and me are going to differ because I just don't think that explosiveness and those group of guys that he's with are going to give him that ability to excel to a high-end RB2 or potentially an RB1. So I'm out on him.
Yeah, I'm not trying to convince you to be in on him. I understand where you're coming from. I think all those reasons are reasons that everybody now uses to pick on a running back they've decided not to like. And the reasons being, well, look at all those other players. There's so many other running backs. The people who don't like Kyron say, look at Blake Corum. But they don't look at Bijan and say, look at Brian Robinson. I'm going to tell you right now, Brian Robinson's getting 30% of the carries. He is. Just that's what happens. You know, they look at Jaylen Warren and they go, I'd love to love him, but Rico Dowdle's in the way. They look at, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't find it to be an original thought, I guess I would say, to say, wow, that you mean you're kidding. There are other running backs on that roster? You know, like the fact is, Bucky Irving, I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm saying I don't think that's a great reason. Bucky Irving, when he was healthy, was a 20-plus touch guy every single week. Even when he came back and he needed shoulder surgery but hadn't had it yet,
20 touches
he was
a
at
game.
20 to touches a game. I don't really think. Now they could change. They might, if they decide, we've been slapped upside the head because we made a big mistake in trying to over rely on this guy, and it's time to turn into more like of a 10 to 15 touch guy. Then I'm biffing it. There's no question. It's tough to know usage beforehand. And I think what maybe this comes down to is you're worried that might happen.
Yeah, and that's what I was about to ask you. I was going to say, I don't know if you're going to get the Devon Achane situation where it's tiny bones, but they're fine giving him his workload and he's held up. And that's something I'm factoring in too, which is, I don't know behind the scenes. None of us work with the Bucks, so it's like we're not going to know. Are they sitting here saying like, look, part of the reason this guy got dinged up and he wasn't what he was in year one and didn't have that explosiveness is he can't handle this, and we got to cap him out at these certain amount of touches. I just don't want to pay the price, and I know you and I differ. And you're saying, yeah, it's a massive discount. It's 3 rounds different this year, and I'm saying it should be more like 5.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're saying you want more of a discount to take him, but it is a discount. Yeah. You have to admit, it is a discount.
Oh, it's a discount.
I think this is the first time it's ever happened. I would have to go back and look, but I don't remember a time. And you thought he might be a flag player, but I didn't talk about him on Thursday. I talked about him today, so you haven't heard me talk about him today. That is something.
I looked at your ranks and I was like, I think it's coming.
Yeah, he's number 2 on the list. I've said all I need to say, and I don't think your argument. I mean, I don't love the argument that I'm worried about the other guys, because I just think everybody has other guys. Certainly, any running back you're taking in the 4th or 5th round has other guys. Come on, you know, like Quinshon Judkins. We're all Quinshon Judkins, full bore, no problem. Yeah, Dylan Sims is going to play most third downs. You know, so like. Everybody's got a guy, but I understand your other points, and the tiny bones part is very nervous.
And the red zone stuff concerns me as well. I know your point is, again, you could take some TDs in from 25, 30 if he has that explosiveness. You don't need those goal line touches. Barkley doesn't get all those goal line touches either, so I get it.
Right. Yeah, that's my point on Irving is, man, he's a monster, but he is small to do what he does, and if he gets hurt again, it blows up in my face. Hopefully, you don't have him. You don't have anybody I picked as a flag player for your number 1. Who is your number 1?
I know for a fact you don't. And I probably could have done this guy as 5. And you know who it's going to be because I've been pooping all over this dude.
Can I say it before? Can I say it? Yeah. It's Rashee Rice.
Chris, I don't know, man. This guy's ADP is 30. He's going as wide receiver 12. I have him wide receiver 26. This is probably the only player that is completely off board for me. Like, no matter where he gets to, I can't draft him. Like, again, I know he's off board because there's no chance that he's going to get to round 6 or 7 where I would even consider him. It's just amazing to me during my entire career, Chris, playing fantasy football. I thought about this. He is the only person who gets this much positive praise with 0 results. Like, this has been going on for 3 years. He's never broken 1,000 yards. He's got absurd off-the-field issues with jail time. I would Hollywood comp him to Shia LaBeouf. Like, this is the Shia LaBeouf of wide receivers, Chris. Then we have Pat Mahomes, who KO'd this dude. We don't even talk about the injury like he was Bill Goldberg, WWE, just speared him, knocked him out. He's got an off-the-field scope again this year. He's rehabbing in jail, and we're like, oh, yeah, man, who cares? He's like wide receiver 1. The guy comes out. We just make any excuse for him on earth. He does 571 yards last year. We're like, nah, it's cool. Yeah, just project that for 17 games. Here's my question for you, Chris. We do all these amazing projections for Rashee Rice. How come no one goes ahead and goes, Christian Watson, do the exact same thing for him and put him in round 3? Like, he goes 36 picks later. He's never done it. He's hurt. But at least we factor in the risks for him and we go, well, he's got these bionic legs and he's learned how to run and he got cool plasma treatment. So we're going to make him in the 60s or 70s. But not Rashee Rice, who's just consistently had off-the-field problems every single year. And I know the reason. It's because he has a Chiefs helmet on. If this guy was doing, the stuff that Calvin Ridley was doing, or any of these other guys who have off-the-field issues, it'd be absurd. You need a perfect ride with this guy. And what's incredible is, like, you look at the string of receivers that go after him, it's like DeVonta Smith, like Zay Flowers and Higgins and, like, Neighbors. Like, I'd rather bet on Neighbors. At least I've seen him do this, and he's an extreme talent, and I'd rather bet on him being healthy than a slant merchant who's got all these different issues off the field, and people go, man, but dude, it's Pat Mahomes. I don't know. The same people who are saying this are putting Pat Mahomes as what, the QB 15, 17? So none of this makes sense to me. I'm completely out, completely off board, want nothing to do with Rashee Rice.
Yeah, me too. Very, very clearly agree. And another one I brought up yesterday with Matt was because I'm making the assumption that the Chiefs are not suddenly rebounding and being amazing after really all of last year not being amazing, and you could argue half of the previous year. They go to the Super Bowl, but it didn't feel like that offense was humming by the time they got there. If we're, Matt and I, we kind of commiserated. We're both building in like reasonable expectations for the Chiefs, but the market doesn't seem to be when it comes to Ken Walker or Rashee Rice. And I said that to Matt, and Matt goes, "Now hold on, Ken Walker, I'm love," and I'm like, you and cousin Josh need to do a podcast together. But what was occurring to me was it couldn't be all situation you're freaked about, because I know you would take Walker at 12 or 13 maybe. So it's not all situation. It's also Rice himself.
It's Rice himself. Like, I think Kenneth Walker in the middle of the second, like, his ADP is 19. Like, that's completely fine to me. Like, I think you could start talking about him in, depending the formats, in the middle of the second. It's like, I'm fine with that, but it's just...
That's not where he goes, though. He goes...
Well, I think you have now experts pushing him up into that turn, right?
Yeah.
In, like, these drafts, but in standard, I'd say in half PPR, he's what? I'm looking really quickly right now. I can't find it.
Yeah,
Probably
17.
16. Yeah.
Yeah, 17, but all I know is he's never there. He's never there at 17 when I'm drafting right now with all these wise guys. But anyway, this isn't about Walker. I brought it up just by way of saying you're concerned about the Chiefs, but clearly you're okay with Walker. So this is a lot more about Rice himself, and it's a PPR scam. Matt said it yesterday. He's the lowest. He's gonna have the lowest ADOT in the league. It's gonna be a 3.2 or whatever. It's gonna be a bunch of screens and slants, and Amon-Ra makes it work, but like he's not Amon-Ra.
He's not, and I still haven't seen it yet, Chris. Again, it's just such small sample sizes.
Well, his rookie year was pretty good. I mean,
it was
almost 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. If somebody does 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns now in today's NFL, 3 years later, that's wide receiver like 17, that's the real problem with receiver, right there. Is that just how many guys are going to get it to 1,000 yards? It's not going to be that many. And how many of those are going to have more than like 4 or 5 touchdowns? Even fewer. That position is a mess. Truly a mess. I mean, it's a mess in that there's so many good players that the production is just crazy spread out. But unless, like, maybe you and I will convene in a month and talk about, can you believe what they're using Rashee Rice now? Man, it's play action. He's running seam routes. He's going down the field. We're going to feel foolish, but that is not.
Yeah, call me when that happens.
Yeah,
I haven't seen this guy do it yet, and ever since Pat Mahomes speared him, I don't know, man.
All right, well, I am the real shock on there was that you had a flag player on there, not knowingly, but real shock that we came at it from a completely different perspective. But that's good. That's a creative friction, as they say. So now people have no idea what to do with Bucky Irving.
Choose your side.
No idea. This show is completely in the middle on Bucky Irving because one person thinks they're the number 2 value on the board, and one person's like, I wouldn't touch him if his hair was on fire. All right, well, very fun. Good job. when I speak to you next week, I will have freshly returned from my sojourn out in the great world meeting folks. So next week, what the heck do we do with you next week? You're around, right? You're on vacation.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh,
ready to
no,
rock.
next week is Warp Zone. Come on. Warp Zone.
Give me some Mario Brothers. I'm in on that.
All right, well, we're going to get warped with Josh next week. Thanks for doing it.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you so much for listening. Let me thank the sponsors that made the show possible. Dose and Viore and Ridge. If you were interested in anything I had to say about today's sponsors, their information is in the show notes. All the current sponsors are listed at harrisfootball.com. If you don't currently have a need for any of our sponsors or you don't have the means, totally understandable. So happy to have you listening. If you can see your way through to using codes and URLs, that's how this whole thing keeps going. The sponsors are what keeps the show going. I appreciate how much ownership you've taken of the show over the years and picked sponsors when you could, and that's why they come back. I appreciate you so much. So the last remaining order of business for this week is to pick a winner. Another Pound Foolish pre-orderer has won. I've done another random drawing. I'm getting very familiar with the random number generator that the Google search engine contains, and we still don't have all that many entries. Like, I think the quest for the bestseller list, I don't know. I don't want to give up hope. Maybe everybody's like just keeps forgetting. Here we are at the end of the show, and you're working out or you're driving. I'm reminding you, pre-order. Send me a screenshot. Get bribed. But yeah, we haven't sold enough books. But anyway, who cares? A lot of people have bought it, and I appreciate it. And hopefully many people will once we get past the pre-order area too. Anyway, the winner of a Zoom session with me, probably, hopefully either on Friday or Saturday, because otherwise I'm going to be indisposed. It is Gerald Gibbons, who I have already emailed, probably by the time Gerald has heard me say his name. But congratulations, a Zoom session with me. Remember, there's still several prizes to come. We've got 2 more weeks of this, and the big one is going to be someone gets to come on the show and actually talk with me on the show. You can interview me for a few minutes on the podcast. So boy, oh boy, I mean, clearly need to get on that. All you have to do is go to harrisfootball.com, look up Pound Foolish. There's links to places where you can pre-order. The reason it matters to pre-order at non-Amazon sites is the other sites, they toll all the sales of pre-orders up until the first week. And so after the book launches, it's just a weekly bestseller list. But before the book launches, anything you get before that first week all counts in the first week. So we were trying, I don't know, maybe we'll still get there. Maybe y'all come through and order, 1,000 books between now and the end of the month. Probably not, given how it's gone, but I love you anyway. You're the best. And Gerald, congratulations. We will Zoom. That's going to do it for this week. You've heard the Flag Players, but there's many more to come. Bunch of lists next week. I know we're doing busts. We just talked about Warp Zone. Super Deep Sleepers is coming. It's going to be an awesome week, and most of it's going to be done from hotel rooms. We'll see how that goes. And make sure, please do, come out and see me on the tour. Until then, thanks again so much for listening. Your hat is awesome. You're awesome for wearing it. Hope you have a great weekend. I will talk to you next time.
The Harris Football Podcast's opening theme is Under the Gun by Apex Manor. The closing theme is Say Yes by The Wellspring. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and never miss an episode.